Joining our coverage, chief political columnist and host of the podcast In Politic for Puck, Msnbc national affairs analyst John Heilman's here with a great interview of your own that we'll play in a second. Founder of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, host of the Independent Americans podcast, Paul Rieckhoff is here. Charlie's still with us. Heilman, let me play some of your conversation with Jen O'Malley-Dillon.
Joe Biden's going to stand on that stage, and he is going to show what he showed in 2020, that he is in this for all the right reasons. He's focused on delivering for the American people, and him standing next to Donald Trump is the best way to show that. Do I think rules are going to protect the American people from whatever Donald Trump might say? Of course not. But I do think, you know, having this really be serious is what the American people want. And I think that, you know, Joe Biden every day is doing the job of being president. This is a great opportunity earlier in this cycle than ever before for the two of them to stand together and for him to talk about what he's done and what he's fighting for. And, you know, not having an audience, not having distractions, not having to worry about COVID. I think all of those things are better for the American people, and Joe Biden's going to have a great debate.
John Heilman, your thoughts?
Well, I guess my thoughts, Mika, are Mika. Geez, because the Kamala thing, I'm about to call you Mika. I don't mean it. Love Mika.
Deeply flattered.
You're Nicole.
Deeply flattered.
Two great friends. Look, I would say that you know, the Biden campaign, Jen O'Malley-Dillon, in that interview, she hasn't done an on-the-record interview since she became chairman. Really an extended one that's been recorded. Since she became chair, stepped back into the job that she had essentially last time, which was being Joe Biden's campaign manager. Over the course of an hour, we talked about a lot of stuff. I confronted her with a lot of the concerns and fears and worries that a lot of Democrats have right now because of the stakes of the election, because of some of the things they see. She was confident. She had really good answers to a lot of the questions. I think that on this debate question, the thing that I asked her, Nicole, that you and I discussed on the air the other day, which is it your expectation that the moderators are going to fact check Donald Trump in real time, or is that going to be Joe Biden's job? And if it's Joe Biden's job, how do you avoid having this debate turn into Joe Biden just doing nothing but fact checking, because we know that Donald Trump is just going to spew lies? And she conceded that that was a problem, that the torrent of lies coming out of Donald Trump's mouth was obviously a problem for the country and a problem for a candidate, but also dealing with it as a challenge. And I think that one of the things they're going to be grappling with over the course of these days, they're at Camp David, really deeply in debate camp in the days ahead between now and next Thursday, is going to be this issue. How much fact-checking does Joe Biden try to do? How much does he leave to either the moderators in real time or to the media afterwards? Because he obviously has a positive message he wants to get out. And even a lot of the contrast messaging that he wants to do could be hindered significantly if he spends too much time following, I'm sure, his instinct, which is to call out every lie that Donald Trump utters, because that could be, 94% of the things that come out of Trump's mouth.
Paul Rieckhoff, your thoughts?
I think the Democrats always make it too complicated. And I think what Joe Biden has to do is stand up and say, you might not like me, but this guy's a whole lot worse. He needs to have plain speak. He needs to be Uncle Joe. He's going to do some storytelling, but also just remind people that there's a deep ethical character integrity contrast here. I don't think it's his job to try to fact check Donald Trump. I think it's his job to remain cool and to show leadership and to show stature and show reasonableness, because really he's talking to two groups. He's talking to Democrats. They need to say, hey, stick with me. You may not like everything I did. Please come out and vote and come out in big numbers. And he's talking to independents. And he has to be honest with independents and say, hey, I may not be your cup of tea. You may not love me. You may not love Democrats, but I'm better than this guy who's a disaster, who's a threat to our national security, who's an indicted felon. He really has to stay above this and not try to sell every single policy talking point, because we're also talking to a lot of low information voters. He's got to go to their gut. And I think he can do that most of all by showing that he's a good man and Donald Trump is a piece of garbage.
Charlie Sykes.
Well, this is going to be an immensely important, immensely influential debate, which is unfortunate, because I think it's going to be a shit show. Look, substance is going to be battered. It's going to be beaten. If anybody thinks that there's going to be an intelligent discussion of policy, I think that is somewhat naive. Donald Trump is going to be up there with a fire hose of insults, interruptions, and BS. And even though his microphone will be muted, I think he's going to be trying to needle and throw Joe Biden off. Paul is right. I think that people are going to be looking at this in terms of like, okay, can we trust Joe Biden? And I think that, unfortunately, I don't feel I'm going out on a limb when I say that this is going to be the worst and the dumbest presidential debate in American history. It will be neither enlightening nor ennobling, because Donald Trump is not going to be up there. He's not going to be discussing student loan debt. He's not going to be talking about healthcare policy. He doesn't know anything about these policies. He doesn't care. He will just simply be flinging things. And I understand the political necessity for Joe Biden, to exceed expectations, and I understand why he is doing it and how he needs to expose Donald Trump. But part of me also thinks that, standing up there with Donald Trump as a convicted felon and treating him as if he is, a legitimate, normal presidential contender does normalize this prospect. But it is what it is. And so, and unfortunately, we're all going to be analyzing it, not in terms of debating points. I mean, nobody's going to confuse this with the Lincoln-Douglas debates. It's not even going to be the Kennedy-Nixon debate. We're all going to be evaluating the show. Who turned in the best performance in the show? I mean, we need to keep focus on the stakes, the issues here, and how important this election is. And yet, we are now being sucked into a reality show. And Donald Trump knows how to behave during a reality show or how to misbehave. I'm only hoping that there'll be a moment in which Donald Trump's behavior is so erratic, in which he loses his cool, and that Joe Biden can turn to him and say, hey, whatever you think of me, do you really want to give this guy control of the nuclear button again? I may be old, but he's old too, and he's crazy, and you can see it with your own eyes.
Yeah, I'm bursting. I have to sneak in a quick break. We'll continue this on the other side.
Oh, my God. So many things.
We are back with John, Paul, and Charlie. Heilman, I know you've got an issue with Charlie Sykes. Go ahead.
I'm still stunned on a panel that includes me and you, Nicole, two of the most profane people I know. And Charlie Sykes, nice Charlie Sykes from Wisconsin, that it was Charlie Sykes who would say,
nice.
We use drop that profanity on the air. I'm stunned by that, number one. Number two, Charlie, the prediction of this being the dumbest, worst, most insipid, most idiotic, whatever, all those adjectives, I think you have forgotten the Republican debate in 2016 that revolved around Donald Trump and Marco Rubio talking about the sizes of their respective genitalia. No matter what you think about this debate, it won't be that bad. But the third thing I think that Charlie said on the substance. Okay, fine. All right. Yeah. Maybe. But I think the third thing, and this is, I have a lot of respect and a lot of time for the argument that by doing this debate at all, that Joe Biden is normalizing Donald Trump, and that there was a case for them to say we will not stand on stage with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I think the case morally, the case ethically, you could make that argument. I do think politically that if Joe Biden had decided not to debate Donald Trump, and given the frame of the election that Trump has, which is me strong, you weak, and the fact that, at least in some of we have a very tight race here. I'll say it over and over again. I don't think anybody's really ahead, but Trump's not losing right now. And I think the Biden campaign giving Trump that stick to beat them with, that Joe Biden was too afraid of Donald Trump to debate. I think that would have been a political mistake.
No, I don't disagree with that. It is, but here we are at this moment where we're watching, Donald Trump being on the stage, tossing peanuts at Joe Biden, and unfortunately, this is the state of our democracy. Sure. This is not going to be a great moment for our democracy. But I agree with you. There was really no choice. And I think your framing is exactly right. This I am strong, you are weak. If Joe Biden dodged this debate, you'd hear no end of it. throughout the campaign. So they have to do it. But it's part of just kind of the tragedy of 2024 and where we're at and what we have to go through to get to the end point.
You know, Paul Rykov, I want to bring you in on this because you said something that I agree with. I mean, I prepared a lot of folks who weren't great at debating, and what you need is a self-own. And I think in this moment, Joe Biden has to go out there with a self-own on the age thing. I mean, I'm so old I may not make it through the next 90 minutes without needing to sit down and taking a sip of water, but I'll never disgrace the office of the presidency. I'll never hand state secrets over to the enemy. I'll never call Vladimir Putin a really smart guy. I'll never frame a love letter from Kim Jong-un. In fact, Kim Jong-un hates my guts. You know why? Because I call him an evil dictator, not the love of my life. I mean, he has to come in there and punch him in the face with his own boast. Trump boasts about things that are traitorous. Trump boasts about things that are disgusting. Trump boasts about grabbing women between the legs. And if Biden doesn't go in there and punch him in the face with his own things he's proud of, then the thing is lost before it starts.
Yes. I mean, if this was a debate, you just destroyed these other two guys, right? So if I'm the moderator here, you brought it. I mean, that's exactly what needs to happen, profanity or not. And I'm pretty profane, Howman. I'm just my mother watches this show, so I try to keep it in check, right? But the bottom line is it's about strength, right? And people are nervous. People have anxiety. Some people are scared. And you have to project strength and confidence. And some of this is very physical. They want to see these two guys on stage opposite each other, and they want to see how they look. Can they stand up there for 90 minutes? You know, Nicole, you know from your prep time, standing up there under these lights for 90 minutes is extremely physically demanding. And they want to see if they both have the endurance, if they have the discipline, and if they have the command to be our commander-in-chief. And I think that's something we've talked about in the past that's always important to remind people. If Biden can emphasize, you are selecting a commander-in-chief, someone who will decide whether or not we go to war, someone who has their finger on the button, someone who will be the boss of your children if they serve in uniform. I think those are the things to continue to emphasize, and for Biden to be disciplined and show he's more disciplined than Trump, who's maybe the least disciplined president and candidate we've ever seen in history. That distinction has to be clear. But also, Biden has to sleep, like get some good sleep, come physical, come ready, eat his Wheaties, and look strong and project confidence.
John Heilemann, Paul Rykov, Charlie Sykes, to be continued. I feel like we could have this conversation every day until the debate and beyond. Thank you so much for it. A quick break for us. We'll be right back.